A stranded human warrior crashes on an alien planet, unaware that his fate is about to intertwine with the powerful alien queen. What begins as a chance encounter soon turns into something far more dangerous, a connection neither of them expected. As their worlds collide, a bond forms, one that could either save or destroy both their species. But when betrayal erupts and the planet itself trembles, the warrior must decide, will he fight to protect the queen and her people, or will their bond lead them into ruin? Get ready for an epic tale of love, power, and survival, where the fate of two worlds hangs in the balance. This is the human warrior. Accidentally impregnates the alien queen. Hey, yes, if you love thrilling sci-fi stories with a twist, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. Let's dive into. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow across the alien planet's strange, rocky surface. The human warrior, Nathan, had been stranded for days. His ship had crashed after an unexpected attack, and now he was left to fend for himself. As he wandered through the unfamiliar terrain, he noticed the air growing warmer and the trees around him more twisted and alien. This wasn't just a simple crash site. Something about this place felt wrong. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden soft humming sound. At first he thought it was just the wind, but it grew louder and more intense, almost as if the planet itself was alive. He felt a cold chill run down his spine, but he kept moving, determined to find shelter and a way off this strange world. After hours of walking, Nathan stumbled upon an ancient temple hidden deep in the forest. Its walls were covered in glowing symbols, and strange, shimmering lights danced around it. Drawn to it like a magnet, he entered the temple cautiously, unsure of what he would find inside. What he found was beyond anything he could have ever imagined. At the heart of the temple stood the alien queen. She was tall, with skin that shimmered like the stars, and eyes that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of space. Her presence was both intimidating and mesmerizing, and Nathan couldn't take his eyes off her. She was standing there, watching him, as if she had been waiting for him. Her voice echoed in the temple, commanding and powerful. "You," she said, her eyes narrowing. "You are the one who has come to change everything." Nathan stood frozen, unsure of how to respond. He was no stranger to alien life, having fought in several battles across the galaxy, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The alien queen was unlike anything he had ever encountered. She slowly stepped forward, and Nathan instinctively reached for his weapon. But before he could react, a sudden wave of energy coursed through the room, disarming him instantly. The queen's power was overwhelming, yet somehow it felt familiar. She had done this before. She had faced warriors like him countless times. "Do not be afraid," she said, her voice softening. "I mean you no harm, but you are in my realm now, and the rules of your world do not apply here." Nathan tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. What did she mean? Why was he here? And why did he feel this strange pull toward her, as if he was being drawn into something much larger than himself? Before he could ask any questions, the queen reached out and placed her hand on his chest. A surge of energy filled his body, and he staggered back, feeling dizzy. His mind raced with questions, but there was one thing he knew for sure. His life was about to change forever. The queen's gaze softened, and she stepped closer, her eyes locking with his. "There is no turning back now, human. What happens next will shape the fate of both our worlds." Nathan's heart pounded in his chest. Was he ready for whatever came next? Could he survive the consequences of what was about to unfold? And as he stood there, staring into the eyes of the alien queen, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much bigger than he had ever imagined. The air in the ancient temple seemed to vibrate with energy, as if the walls themselves were alive. Nathan stood frozen, still reeling from the encounter with the alien queen. Her touch had sent a surge of unfamiliar power through him, and now, standing mere inches away from her, he could feel his heart racing uncontrollably. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, to run, but something in her gaze held him there, like an invisible force binding him to the spot. "You're different," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of something ancient and wise. "I felt your arrival before you even set foot on this planet." Her eyes, glowing with a faint blue light, studied him with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. Nathan's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. How could she have known he was coming? Was this all part of some grand design? He opened his mouth to speak, but the words failed him. The power of the moment was too overwhelming. The Queen seemed to sense his hesitation, and with a fluid motion, she stepped back, giving him space. But her presence was still felt deeply, like a shadow that would not leave. "You must be wondering why you are here," she continued, her gaze unwavering. "I did not bring you here by accident, nor did your ship's crash just happen to occur on my world. There is a reason for all of it." Nathan swallowed hard, finally managing to speak. "What do you mean? Why am I here?" The Queen smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "It is your destiny, human. A destiny that you cannot escape, even if you tried." She paused for a moment, as if deciding whether to reveal more. "The fate of my people now lies in your hands." Nathan's stomach dropped. He wasn't a hero, and he certainly wasn't ready for anything that sounded like a prophecy. He was just a soldier, a survivor. This wasn't his fight. Yet, in the pit of his stomach, he knew that something deeper was at play, something beyond his understanding. Before he could ask more, the Queen raised her hand, and the temple seemed to hum with a new energy. Suddenly, a glowing image appeared before them. It was a vision, a series of images flashing across the air, showing scenes of destruction, chaos, and war. Alien ships clashing in the sky, planets being torn apart, and a civilization on the brink of extinction. "These are the consequences of failure," the Queen said, her voice heavy with sorrow. "My people are dying, and we have no future without help. But our salvation, our only hope—" Her voice faltered, and Nathan could see a flicker of something in her eyes. It was the first time she had shown any vulnerability. "Is in you?" Nathan's mind raced. He had never signed up for any of this. He had fought wars, yes, but not for the survival of an entire species. The weight of her words was suffocating. "I don't understand," he muttered, his voice barely audible. The Queen looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Your very presence here, human, was not by chance. The bond we share now goes beyond what you could comprehend. It is fate, and I cannot control it." As the images faded, the air seemed to grow colder. Nathan took a step back, unsure of what to do next. His body screamed for escape, but his heart oddly wanted to stay. There was something about this alien queen, something magnetic and strange, pulling him in deeper than he ever thought possible. "You will help me," she said, her tone soft but firm. "And in doing so, you will change the course of our history." Nathan's breath caught in his throat. He had no idea what he was about to get himself into, but one thing was certain: his life was no longer his own. He was tangled in something much larger than he could have ever imagined, and whatever happened next, there was no turning back. Nathan's mind was spinning, trying to process everything the alien queen had just revealed. The weight of her words hung in the air like an invisible storm, heavy and suffocating. He had come here for a routine mission, nothing more. But now, as he stood before this powerful being, the very fabric of his existence felt like it was being rewritten. His survival instincts, honed through years of war, screamed at him to get away, but his feet remained planted firmly on the ground, as if something else, something deeper, was pulling him in. The Queen stepped closer, her presence filling the entire space. "You have to understand," she whispered, her voice barely a breath against his ear. "This is bigger than either of us. The fate of both our worlds now depends on your actions." Nathan's breath hitched. The air around him seemed to shimmer with an energy he couldn't comprehend. Every word she spoke felt like it was shifting his reality, like he was no longer the same man who had stepped off that damaged ship just hours ago. The Queen's gaze was intense, almost unnervingly so, as if she could see every thought flickering through his mind. "You have no idea how important this moment is," she continued, taking a step back, allowing him space. Her eyes locked with his, searching for something, though Nathan couldn't tell what. "But there is one thing you must understand. What has happened between us. It wasn't just an accident. The words hit Nathan like a shockwave. He recoiled instinctively, but she was too quick. Her hand shot out, gripping his arm, holding him steady. Her touch was colder than he had expected, like the surface of metal in the depths of space, yet it sent a jolt of energy through him. "You," Nathan began, but the words died in his throat. There was no way he could have understood what had truly happened. He was just a soldier, not a chosen one, not a hero. But in that moment, he realized that he had become part of something much bigger than himself. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The Queen's lips parted in a sad smile, and for the first time, Nathan saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. "You didn't just touch me, human. What happened was inevitable. My people are dying, and their only chance of survival now rests within you. The bond we share is not of your making. It's ancient. It was always meant to be." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. He was the key. He didn't know how, but somehow his very existence had become linked to hers. It felt like a nightmare that he couldn't wake up from. But I didn't," he stammered, trying to find some logical explanation, some way to deny it. But the Queen's hand, warm yet firm against his arm, made him pause. "You didn't have to," she replied softly. "It was always meant to happen, regardless of your actions. The energy, the essence of your species, it's what will save us. You have made a choice without even knowing it." Nathan's heart raced, the gravity of her words sinking in. He was part of something far beyond his understanding, something far too dangerous to ignore. The connection between them had triggered something within him, something he couldn't control. And though he wanted to run, to escape, deep down, he knew he couldn't. This was his fight now. And just as quickly as the tension had built, the Queen's expression softened. "It's done," she said quietly. "We are bound now. There is no turning back." Nathan stood frozen, his mind a storm of confusion and disbelief. His eyes met hers, and for the first time he realized that there was more at stake here than just his survival. This was a war for the future of two worlds. And no matter how much he fought it, he had already become a part of it. As the realization settled in, Nathan could feel something stirring inside him, a strange new power, a force he had never known before. He didn't know what it meant or what would happen next. But one thing was certain. His life was no longer just his own. The days blurred together as Nathan found himself caught in the tension between duty and destiny. The alien Queen, once a distant, untouchable figure, had now become an undeniable part of his existence. He could no longer deny the bond that had formed between them, nor could he escape the weight of the consequences that loomed over them both. The world around him seemed to shift, as if the very planet was reacting to the bond they had created. It was a connection so powerful, so consuming, that even Nathan's warrior instincts couldn't make sense of it. The Queen had been distant in her words, but never in her actions. She had shown him glimpses of her people, her struggles, and the desperate need for help. Yet, as their relationship deepened, something unsettling began to stir within him. There were moments, small, fleeting moments, when the lines between them blurred. Was he the one helping her, or was she manipulating him to secure her people's survival? He couldn't shake the thought. And as much as he fought to push it aside, the more it seemed to gnaw at him. One night, while the twin moons of the alien planet hung heavy in the sky, Nathan found himself walking through the Queen's palace-like chambers, lost in thought. The eerie silence weighed heavily on him, and the ornate walls seemed to close in as he passed beneath them. He had hoped for clarity, but all he felt was confusion. What had started as a chance encounter now felt like something far more orchestrated. He couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion that his arrival here was no accident. Just as the thought crossed his mind, he heard a voice. "You're troubled," the Queen said, her tone as cool and controlled as always, but Nathan could hear the trace of concern beneath it. She stood near a massive window, staring out into the darkness beyond. Her back was to him, but he could see her posture, perfect, regal, as if she were carved from the stone of the planet itself. "I'm not sure what's real anymore," Nathan admitted, his voice heavy with the weight of his confusion. "I don't understand why this is happening. Why I am the one who has to do this." The queen turned to face him, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "Because you are the key," she said simply. "I cannot explain it, human, but I know it to be true." Nathan's brow furrowed. "You've said that before. But I'm not some hero. I'm not the one you need." For a moment, she said nothing. Instead, she stepped closer, closing the distance between them. The air around them crackled with a strange energy, an electricity that was both terrifying and intoxicating. Nathan's pulse quickened as she reached out and placed a hand on his chest, her touch sending a shiver through him. He didn't pull away. He couldn't. "The world is falling apart, Nathan," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "My people are dying. If we fail, we will be wiped from existence. There is no other way." The weight of her words hit him hard, but it wasn't just the planet's fate that tugged at his heart. It was the queen herself, her vulnerability masked by her regal demeanor. He could see it now, the desperate need for help, for survival, and the trust she placed in him. And then, without warning, she leaned in. Her lips brushed against his ear, and her words made his heart race. "You are more than just a soldier," she whispered. "You are part of something much greater than yourself." Nathan didn't know what to say. He felt caught between two worlds, his own and the one that the queen inhabited. She was right. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was bound to her and to the fate of her people. Whether he liked it or not, his choices would shape the future of both their worlds. As she pulled away, Nathan felt his heart pounding in his chest. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about something far more dangerous and far more personal. He had become entangled in a war that wasn't his own, yet he had no choice but to fight. The queen's gaze softened as if she had read his thoughts. "There is no turning back, Nathan. But if you stay with me, you will not be alone." And as her words echoed in the quiet of the night, Nathan realized that the battle for survival had already begun, whether he was ready or not. Nathan's heart raced as the queen's words echoed in his mind. He had already crossed a line, one that there was no turning back from. The weight of the universe seemed to press down on him as he stood by her side, caught between duty and the deepening connection he couldn't ignore. Every day the alien queen became more than just an enigmatic leader. She was something else entirely. But what was that something? Was it desire, or something more dangerous? The days had begun to blur, filled with tension and whispered promises of survival. As the queen's pregnancy advanced, the planet itself seemed to shift. Strange tremors rippled through the ground, and the skies above them darkened with an ominous, thick fog. The people of the queen's world, once full of hope, now whispered of disaster. Her people were divided, uncertain of what the future held, torn between those who saw the union as salvation and those who believed it was a curse. One night, as Nathan sat alone in his quarters trying to quiet the storm in his mind, a sudden knock on the door broke his thoughts. He opened it to find the queen standing there, her figure silhouetted against the eerie glow of the planet's twin moons. She had come, not for a battle or for strategy, but for something far more personal. "Come with me," she said, her voice low, almost secretive. "There's something you need to see." Without questioning her, Nathan followed her down dark corridors, past rooms he had never dared enter. The further they went, the more isolated they became, as if they were moving deeper into the heart of the queen's realm, away from the eyes of her people. They arrived at a chamber unlike anything Nathan had seen before. It was large, with walls made of dark, translucent material that glowed softly in the dim light. In the center of the room was a glowing orb, pulsating with energy, its surface swirling with images, visions of destruction, of a dying world, of an ancient prophecy that seemed to have been written for this very moment. "What is this?" Nathan asked, stepping closer to the orb. The images it displayed were shifting too quickly for him to follow, but he recognized the faces of the queen's people, her allies and enemies alike. "It is the truth," the queen said, her voice quiet, almost sad. "The fate of my people is bound to this prophecy, and you, Nathan, are a part of it. Whether you want to be or not. Her words sent a chill down his spine.
What do you mean?
She gestured to the orb. This is not just about us. This is about the future of everything, my people, your people, the galaxies. This bond between us, it was foretold long before we met. But the prophecy isn't clear. It only says that the union of human and alien will bring either salvation or destruction. It all depends on how you choose to act. Nathan stared at her, his mind racing. Salvation or destruction? Those were the stakes. He had no idea what the right choice was, or if he even had a choice at all. His entire life had been about survival. But this was something much bigger. He wasn't just fighting for his own life anymore. He was fighting for a future that wasn't his own. The Queen moved closer to him, her hand gently resting on his arm. I know this is overwhelming, but I need you, Nathan. We need you. Her eyes held a depth of emotion that was almost impossible to decipher. Was it fear? Hope? Both? I don't know if I'm the right person for this, he admitted, his voice tight. I'm just a soldier. I've never been a hero. Not like you. She shook her head, her gaze never leaving his. You are the one. You just have to believe it. Believe in us. In this. The weight of her words settled heavily on his chest. She believed in him. But did he believe in himself? Before he could respond, a violent tremor shook the ground beneath them, followed by a low rumble that seemed to come from deep within the planet itself. The orb flickered, and for a brief moment Nathan thought he saw a vision of himself standing before a vast army, the Queen by his side. Was this their future? The Queen's expression grew dark. The time has come, Nathan. There's no more time for hesitation. We must act now. Nathan took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had to choose. He had to decide whether to embrace this destiny, to fight for the Queen and her people, or to walk away, leaving them to their fate. But one thing was certain, whatever choice he made, it would change everything. The air was thick with tension as Nathan and the Queen stood side by side, their gazes fixed on the horizon beyond the palace walls. The strange storm had grown more violent in the past few hours, as if the planet itself was reacting to the choices they had made. The once peaceful world now seemed on the brink of collapse, the very foundations of its civilization trembling beneath their feet. Every step they took seemed to echo through the vast emptiness, the weight of their destiny pressing heavily upon them. Do you feel it? The Queen asked, her voice barely a whisper, yet it cut through the air with a sharp clarity. The shift in the atmosphere. The change in the tides of fate. Nathan didn't respond immediately. His thoughts were too clouded, too filled with the chaos that had consumed his mind in the past days. The growing connection between him and the Queen was undeniable, and every moment spent together only made it stronger. But the reality of what they were facing, what they had to face, was becoming impossible to ignore. The Queen had been right. There was no turning back. The bond between them wasn't just physical. It was something much deeper. Their destinies were intertwined, and the consequences of that union were beginning to unfold in ways that neither of them could control. Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled again, but this time it wasn't just a tremor. It was a roar, deep and menacing, coming from the core of the planet itself. The Queen's eyes widened, and she grabbed Nathan's arm, her grip stronger than he expected. "They're here," she said, her voice filled with a mix of urgency and dread. "The traitors. They've come to finish what they started." Nathan's pulse quickened as he followed her gaze. In the distance, he could see dark shapes moving across the landscape, warriors, ships, figures cloaked in shadows. They were closing in fast. His instincts screamed for him to fight, to prepare for the inevitable battle. But the Queen's grip on him held him in place. "They've turned against me," she continued, her voice trembling for the first time. "They want to take the power I have to control the planet's fate for themselves. They'll stop at nothing to destroy us, destroy what we have." Nathan's mind raced. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. This was personal. This was about protecting the Queen, about protecting the future they had begun to shape together. Without another word, Nathan reached for his weapon, the familiar weight of it bringing a brief sense of reassurance. But as he turned to face the Queen, he saw something in her eyes, a quiet resolve, a willingness to sacrifice everything for the greater good. "We fight together," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos that surrounded them. The Queen nodded, her lips curling into a fierce, determined smile. Together, then. As the first wave of enemies approached, Nathan knew one thing for certain. There was no turning back now. The battle was upon them, and they would either rise together or fall apart. But for the first time since he had arrived on this alien world, Nathan felt a strange sense of peace. Whatever happened next, he wasn't alone, and that in itself was a victory. The battle was chaos incarnate. The ground shook with every explosion, and the air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke and burning metal. Nathan fought side by side with the Queen, each step in sync, each movement purposeful. His mind was focused, his instincts honed for survival. But something about the Queen's presence by his side made everything feel different. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the future of both their worlds. The traitors, once loyal to the Queen, were everywhere. Clad in dark armor and armed with weapons more advanced than anything Nathan had ever seen, they fought with a ruthless intensity. The Queen's forces, though fierce, were outnumbered. The tide of the battle seemed to shift with every passing moment, but Nathan refused to lose hope. Not now. Beside him, the Queen moved with a fluid grace, her strength and power undeniable. She cut through the enemy ranks with precision, her every strike sending enemies flying. She was a force of nature, unstoppable and unyielding, but even she was beginning to show signs of strain. Her energy, once boundless, was beginning to fade, the toll of the pregnancy and the battle taking its toll. Nathan watched her closely, his heart pounding. "We need to finish this," he said, his voice low but urgent. "Now!" The Queen's eyes locked onto his, and for a moment everything else seemed to fade away. "I know," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "But we can't do this alone." Before Nathan could respond, the sky above them tore open, and a massive ship descended from the clouds. It was unlike anything Nathan had ever seen, large, sleek, and powerful. The Queen's enemies were pulling out all the stops. The ship's hatch opened, and more soldiers poured out, weapons raised. Nathan's heart sank. They were being overwhelmed, but then a spark of hope flickered within him. If they were going to win this, they needed to take the fight to them. "Stay close," Nathan ordered, his voice firm. The Queen nodded, her face set with determination. Together they fought their way toward the massive ship, cutting through enemy lines like a blade through silk. With each step, Nathan felt a growing power within him, a surge of energy he couldn't explain. It was the bond, he realized. The connection between him and the Queen was no longer just a feeling. It was a force, a power that had awakened in him. And it was driving him forward, giving him strength when he thought he had none left. Finally, they reached the ship. The Queen, exhausted but resolute, turned to Nathan. "This is it," she said, her eyes filled with fire. "We end this now," Nathan nodded, raising his weapon. Together. As they stormed the ship, every blast, every clash of steel was a step closer to their victory. But as they reached the control room, Nathan knew that the real battle wasn't with the traitors or their forces. It was with the very future they had fought for. The Queen's power, the planet's fate, and the survival of everything they had built together rested in this moment. They were stronger together, and they would not fall.